that works.
You know, Thomas Sowell, he used to say one of the first questions that should be asked about, you know, any policy that gets proposed is, do we know how to do it? And liberals and leftists can't figure this one out. They don't have the ability to ask the question, can we actually do that? Can we create equity with everybody? Would that even work? Like, no, of course not. But they don't have they think they're smarter than everybody. They want to make the choice. They think they're smarter and they should be the ones to make the choice for the rest of the world because they got a degree after all. So look, I know I'm about 3-4 days too late on this, but we basically have to talk about it. I'm gonna show you guys what's going on in case you don't know. Then we'll talk about how stupid and insane this idea is. So let it roll.
You know, if they were price gouging, wouldn't the profit margin be 30% instead of 1.2%? And now they come out, now you know why they don't let her speak in public. She comes out with the craziest, silliest, and most economically illiterate proposal in the history of presidential politics.
Yeah,
and honestly,
much.
She wants the government to set prices, and she really wants them to. That's the chilling thing. If she becomes president, this is going to be policy. You're going to go to the grocery store, and then it won't be there, or if it is there, the shelves will be empty.
I need you guys to understand that what he just said is not a overreach. Like, this is the most radical left-wing policy that has ever been presented in American politics as a serious proposal. Like, since we've tried this before and realized that it was a failure. Everybody tried to say it was a failure then. We still tried it with Nixon. It was a total failure. There are simple common sense reasons why this can never work. But also it proves that this woman has absolutely zero brain cells whatsoever in her head. The far left radicals are already going to vote for her. Her whole point should have been to try to switch over some of the people in the middle to get them to her side. And the exact opposite of what you want to do if you're trying to do that is recruit Tim Walz. And picks the weirdest dude. Like, they try to call the Republicans weird, but she literally goes and picks the most weirdest old man from Minnesota that destroyed that entire state government of Minnesota. A dude that literally says openly in an interview that socialism is just another person's neighborliness. Made up right off the top of his head. Like, this is outright insanity, and I hope other people are awake to this nonsense. The most radical governor of all the 50 states of the United States. And then on top of that, mention a flat out communist proposal. This is an absolute Hail Mary that the Democrats are trying to do with her. And it is insane. Like, I've never seen anything like it, this clown politics in my life.
When the government sets prices, I actually wrote a chapter in the economic report of the president, or my staff did, when I was in the White House, that showed that when the government starts setting food prices, then that's when people start having famines and stuff. Because
for one, I need you to understand how hard it is to get a product into a grocery store like Walmart or Kroger or whatever's in your area. Like, these companies compete for, like, for instance, if one, granola bar company is price gouging for their granola bars, Walmart will see that their profits are low and go and recruit another granola bar company and kick them out the door. The profit margins on some of these grocery products are like 3, 4, 5% at the most. This is not a big profit margin type of industry. Like, so it's just a terrible economic proposal, let alone the fact that it's simple common sense factors tell you this don't work. If you got A and B as a product or A, B, and C, let's say, and it takes A, B, and C to make this pie that sells for a certain amount. How does changing the price on the pie, or fixing the price on the pie, change the price of A, B, and C that it took to make the pie? Like, not to mention that it will lower the quality of basically everything that the government touches. It'll stifle innovation 100% completely. Nobody's investing in a business or a product that the government is fixing the price on. Like, this is just absolute insanity. The dude is right, you know, like, it's a wonder why she talks through a teleprompter every single time she comes on air, because she can't go off script for 2 minutes without saying some flat out Marxist proposal. Like, it's complete insanity, and I can't sit back and just watch this happen any longer.
The people who produce food can't afford to do so because the government pays the less to the cost. It's just terrible.
I mean, it's being called remarkably, absurdly idiotic, breathtakingly idiotic.
I would second that. Breathtakingly idiotic.
Her running mate, Tim Walz, called socialism, quote,
you know what this shows? This shows that the radical left has completely taken control of the Democratic Party. 100% taken control. Because there are moderate Democrats that would have never let her propose such an idiotic proposal.
Would mean, which basically says, like, it's not going to be markets, it's not going to be supply and demand that's determining how much your grocery store charges.
And like, to lower inflation, it's the absolute worst thing you could try to lower inflation. You know how you lower inflation? You increase the demand of the product, or you increase the supply of the product. I mean, that's how you lower inflation. You crank up industry, you increase the supply of the product. And that's the only way to lower inflation. This inflation was caused by this administration printing like 20% of all dollars in existence were printed since 2020. Like, they knew that this inflation was going to happen. Every single time this has ever happened in history that the government decided to influx a bunch of paper money into the system, every single time it is a serious dose of inflation happens, followed by high unemployment. Every single time.
For milk or for eggs, it's going to be some bureaucrat in DC, which seems like totally unworkable, first of all, for the FTC to be.
Here's the other reason why this crisis of I'm smarter than everybody and this will work if I do it. It has literally become an absolute crisis in the United States. I mean, like, a serious crisis of intellectual bankruptcy. But the real problem here is, just think about all the grocery items that are in one grocery store. Think about the person or persons, how many people it would take to analyze the prices of every single. This is another reason why it's totally impossible. This is why it's so radical, because it's absolutely impossible. You would have to have an army of people examining the prices of every single good that comes into existence. Like, it's absolutely economically impossible.
Again, but it also would be very bad for markets. We've seen this kind of thing tried in lots of other countries before. Venezuela, Argentina, the Soviet Union, etc. It leads to shortages. It leads to black markets. Plenty of uncertainty.
Double digits under Biden and Harris.
Right. Well, the fact is that Harris's proposal is modeled after the.
This right here proves that they haven't even been telling us the truth about the real, actual level of inflation. Look at this: gas 50%, electric, fuel, oil, everything is over 20. Over the lowest here is airfare, or groceries, which is 21%. Yet the inflation is only at like 9% or something stupid. It's crazy, man.
By Elizabeth Warren, that's so open-ended that the government could basically set the price for everything.
Yeah.
And so if you think that this is just, something that's going to take...
Not to mention not to mention the FTC and the SEC and all these regulatory bodies that are supposed to be stopping monopolies and shit already exist. So there's on 20 different levels why this economic proposal is just meteorically idiotic.
But she's bragging about having fixed other prices, and she's, copying a bill that wants to fix every price.
Well, she wasn't picked by the Democrat primary voters, so this is what the party is stuck with. Absolute abject stupidity. Kevin.
Abject stupidity.
With us for just a bit more. We
Gotta say.
Okay, coming up next. It's also said the government should subsidize housing with even more of your money. Didn't that get the U.S. into the banking and financial crisis?
Yes, it did.
Recession in 2008. More of this same poison? It's so dumb. Grady Trimble standing by live in D.C. with more. Grady.
Hey, Liz, Vice President.
Moronic.
Says this plan she laid out today.
This is Democrats' ploy every time. Let's give them free stuff. Obamacare, free phone for everybody. This is how they buy votes from you.
3 million homes built in the next 4 years.
3 million homes, you guys. Yet they just let 10 million, is the official number I've seen, immigrants in. What is 3 million homes gonna do? Sad, man.
Here's some of what's in that plan. A tax incentive for building starter homes, a $40 billion fund to...
There's always shit like this in liberal plans too, starter homes. So there's something that they can make up the definition for. This right here, stop Wall Street from home buying in bulk, is mandatory. That has to be stopped, no matter what.
In construction, she wants to cut red tape, stop Wall Street investors from bulk buying homes, and she wants to help...
What does cut red tape mean?
Home buyers down payment.
Absolute nonsense.
My administration will provide first-time home buyers with $25,000 to help with the down payment on a new home.
Great. Way to eliminate
We can do this.
what $25,000 means for regular Americans that can only come up with $25,000. The people that can get the subsidy are gonna take the place of the people that could have actually afforded it before. Whoever's eligible for the subsidy. These free handouts do not work, man. And it's depressing because they're literally trying to buy your vote with free stuff.
If elected, because a lot of these proposals would require congressional approval. They'd also likely lead to more government spending and maybe more inflation, according to some folks, including investor and author David Bahnsen. Here's what he says. Giving people $25,000 to buy a home does not make a home price cheaper.
Right.
It makes a home cost, about $25,000 more.
Thanks, gentlemen, both. Ned, your reaction to that new agenda of Harris?
Well, apparently we're not going to address what caused all of this inflation in the first place. Obviously, they're out of control government spending, printing up money.
The socialism in our government, yeah.
Rising cost of fuel because of their obsession with the global warming hoax. And their response
Exactly.
to all of this is, we caused inflation. We're going to try and fix inflation with more things that caused inflation.
Yep.
It's absolute insanity. But I guess this is what you get when you have two neo-Marxists at the top of the ticket.
Exactly.
Wondering, why did we even fight the Cold War if we're going to accept these ideas, this ideology as legitimate as though it belongs in U.S. politics? But incredible to me that Kamala Harris hasn't done anything for 4 weeks since this political coup to take out President Biden as their nominee, and her first and best...
It's because the fight never ended, my friend. It's always been socialism. It's still socialism that is destroying our country right now.
offer is her economic offer, and it's communism, plain and simple.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think that she understands what causes inflation. But to go to the
She
House-
doesn't. She has no clue about supply and demand side economics. No clue.
that she would build or help subsidize the building of 3 million new homes Well, one of the things that's been driving housing inflation up so much, it's actually gone up more than overall inflation, is the open border. So there are 5, 6, 7 million people who need a place to stay, who are moving into places all over the country and driving up prices. And so if you think about it, the 3 million that she wants to build won't even cover the
policies are either, one, carbon copies of President Trump's are just god awful.
It's really not at the grocery store level. This is at the corporate level. They've been making record profits. We've never seen the kind of profits in corporate America the last couple of years. And when they're
what business? Then what business, dude? You know, that's the thing, is they'll always be able to find some loon Democrat to doesn't matter. They could, you know, propose outright communism, and some loon Democrat will defend it.
About increasing prices. So my point is that we should give
grocery stores are not making 30% profits, dude.
Government the power to investigate just run-of-the-mill price gouging.
They've had that power.
Give the people an opportunity to fight back against them. As I said, if they're not engaged in corporate price gouging, they got nothing to worry about. But this is long overdue. People are tired of just accepting higher prices.
Well, let's bring in former media chairman and editor-in-chief, Steve.
When this guy, this is why I got this guy. When this guy talks, I listen. This is one of the smartest men in the world.
Himself, Steve, you've been around for a little while. We had a problem with inflation, and it seems like
even this, we had a problem with inflation.
Price fix.
Okay.
Give money away. In your experience, how is that going to work?
Well, you don't have to have a personal experience. Just look at the history books.
Sheesh.
I'm old enough, though, to remember Richard Nixon, how well those price controls were in the great inflation of the 1870s.
Completely moronic.
It creates a big problem, and this inflation problem is government created. Government then says, you got to give us more powers, more control to deal with the problem we created.
Isn't that what you just heard from dude, that Democrat?
On groceries, everyone's now pointed out 1% to 2% margins is hardly price gouging. But they want to have the power.
1% to 2% margins.
Prices are fair. That's a Soviet-style system. They want to introduce an income, universal income, starting with the child tax credit, $6,000 a year. And so you look at.
Isn't it pathetic? You know, in an interview, J.D. Vance mentioned a child tax credit for $5,000. So she comes out and mentions one for $6,000. It's like a charade, man.
If the government's going to help housing, God help us, we'll all be living in caves. Look what they did with EV chargers. $7 billion, how many have been built? About 8. Half of them don't work. So now they're going to solve the housing problem?
Right.
I want to live in a house, not on the sidewalk.
Yeah, the billions set aside for broadband to rural America, there hadn't been one shovel stuck in the ground because of that.
This is because of, like, it goes back to Milton Friedman's most simple idea. You know, people acting in their own self-interest are always going to be able to do something cheaper than a government third party that is supposedly acting in their self-interest while taking their own off the top every time.
And that's an opportunity. Unspent money, let's return it to the taxpayer. Oh, I can't do that.
But you have to explain why on planet Earth would she go out, and even Senator Bob Casey, who's running for re-election, why would they act like that this is a good idea?
Right.
What would put her up to price control?
Because they're power hungry.
Knowing that they are a failure, is she?
And she's running the Democrat Party. She's got nobody in her ear, you know, that has any sense to be able to check her on her nonsense.
With her own awesomeness, that she thinks she can sell food shortages and bare grocery store shelves to the American people, because that's what happens.
I'm going to go a new form of publishing, ration books, because that's what this would lead to. And they know, well, price controls, they know people are upset by rising prices. So they say, we'll lower them.
The woman's father was a Marxist. The dude that she was with had Marxist ties. And then she goes and picks the weirdest dude. Like, try to call the Republicans weird, but she literally goes and picks the most weirdest old man from Minnesota that destroyed that entire state, government of Minnesota. A dude that literally says openly in an interview that socialism is just another person's neighborliness. Made up right off the top of his head. Like, this is outright insanity, and I hope other people are awake to this nonsense.
And they make it sound like if you just
because I'm concerned.
in order, it's done. So they can lower the nominal prices, as they said in the Soviet Union. It's free, but you can't get any.
Yeah.
Steve, it's very simple. We've talked about this a lot on the bottom line. Basic supply and demand. You have this administration that has targeted farmers and ranchers. You look at the Central Valley of California, it is a breadbasket. A lot of farmers are there, and they're shutting off the water. So the farms are going out of business. They're attacking ranchers. Well, if you attack our food supply, prices are going to go up. And so the answer is, get rid of your bad policy. Let farmers and ranchers grow.
Plus, President Trump said yesterday, get rid of the barriers to building housing.
Yes.
Why does a development in Texas take a few weeks to get underway and years in California? And on water in California, talk about agriculture there. Half of the rainfall, average annual rainfall, is flushed out into the Pacific Ocean. Flushed out, either for environmental reasons, crazy ones, or they just can't build reservoirs. So it's not a water shortage, it's government shortage.
But to put an exclamation point on this, they believe that profits are evil.
Yep.
And they're going to decide
That's leftism.
a company or a small business gets to earn.
That's the leftism philosophy. If one person is rich, they must have oppressed this other group of people in order to get rich. They literally believe profits are evil. That's not an exaggeration.
This is the path. She is further left, way further
Than
left
anybody
than what
ever.
we've seen in the last 3.5 years.
Yeah, this is cronyism.
This is a Hail Mary, is what this is.
Profit in the invasion.
And the American people just might be dumb enough to vote for this woman because we're all about feelings now and we vote off vibes.
Your species food by the time they get through. And where are you going to get the investment to get this new technology, to get the new housing, to get the infrastructure? It doesn't grow on trees. It comes from people creating resources. If you don't have an environment where people can create resources, government money printing ain't going to do it.
Exactly.
The 10.
You have to increase.
Not 10, but I'm going to go.
You have to increase supply. You have to increase the supply. It's the only way. And if you put government sanctions to cap out prices, what you're going to do is kill the supply completely. You're going to make it to where no other businesses want to invest into that product. Because why would you? You're not allowed to sell it for what it's worth. This is total insanity, man.
I'm here to help. Ronald Reagan's old line. We should be afraid that Kamala Harris thinks she has.
This is tyranny. Her presentation today, very cheerful, nice crowd, warm smile, and all of that.
It's a movie.
Bad face, a good face, and the most radical leftist, stoneless policies in American history. This would be an unmitigated disaster.
Yes.
Okay, if they were price gouging, wouldn't the...
Anyway, guys, this is Value Vision. Please subscribe to the channel or something. It'd be nice. Thanks. Look, even this leftist media outlet, the Washington Post, which is a super left media outlet, couldn't help themselves. They said when your opponent calls you communist, maybe don't propose price controls. It's because this woman is a practicing Marxist. She believes the Marxist philosophy of we need to destroy America and then we'll build something in its place. We don't know exactly what, but something will come in its place.